What's up? This is Miles Away. Today, I'm gonna show you how to make a synthwave song from scratch. To do this, we're gonna use ROLI's amazing MPE controllers, the LUMI Keys Studio Edition, and the ROLI Seaboard RISE 2. I'm also gonna design all the synth patches you hear inside ROLI's Equator2 VST. So if you do have Equator2 or one of these products already, you can download my patches that I've made for free in the description below and follow along. Now, just a quick disclaimer, ROLI did reach out and ask to sponsor a video on my channel, but with that out of the way, let's learn about the amazing world of synthwave through the lens of these incredible instruments. Synthwave is a genre that emerged in the late 2000s. The defining sound of synthwave is that it is a musical homage to the synth-pop and synth-based soundtracks of the 1980s. Influenced by famous 1980s synth artists like John Carpenter, Vangelis, Tangerine Dream, Gary Newman, and more, synthwave artists tried to recapture the magic of that bygone era. Vangelis' 1980s Blade Runner soundtrack is probably the perfect example of the aesthetic and sound that these modern synthwave artists aim to recreate. So, in the mid-2000s, with the rise of niche independent music blogs, artists like Kavinsky, Miami Nights 1984, Mitch Murder, and The Midnight all began to garner attention. As mentioned before, the genre's visual aesthetic also played a huge role in its popularity. It perfectly captured the nostalgia that generations had for a bygone era. So, the genre truly hit the mainstream when the 2011 film Drive was released, which not only used an original synthwave soundtrack, but also featured the now famous synthwave hit song Night Call by Kavinsky. Since then, synthwave has saturated into all forms of modern media and has become a very prominent genre in film, picture, pop music, and more. Let's find out how to make it. Now, what makes synthwave synthwave? So before we create our track, I want to quickly go over why I think an MPE instrument like the Seaboard RISE 2 or LUMI Keys is so good for creating synthwave. So synthwave by its nature is all about imperfections and human emotion. So having the ability on either of these controllers to do per note pitch bend and aftertouch makes it really easy to get these emotional lead lines and melodies out that I might not be able to get when using a traditional MIDI controller. The LUMI Keys is really your classic MIDI keyboard, but with the added benefits of MPE, including per note pitch bend and vibrato and polyphonic aftertouch. However, one of the coolest parts of LUMI Keys Studio Edition is its integration with ROLI Studio Player. Here, not only can we choose sounds, but we can also choose our scale, which will change the color of the lights on the screen to show only the notes from that scale, as well as use smart chords, which will allow one key pressed to trigger a chord and then show us what kind of notes are a part of this. The Seaboard, on the other hand, is a completely new instrument. The different gestures you can do on the Seaboard include to tap, to press, to slide, to glide, and lift. And of course, all of this is done polyphonically on a per note basis. So now that we know the history of synthwave and how these instruments work, let's create our track. The first thing we're going to need is a simple repeating synth melody. This melody, often called an ostinato, will play throughout our entire track and act as an anchor. Next, no synthwave track is complete without warm synth brass chords. The synth brass that synthwave takes its inspiration from was often created on synthesizers like Oberheims and Prophets, which is why Equator2 is so powerful, as we can actually use samples of these analog synths as our oscillators. Next, for contrast, we're going to layer in some digital synth keys. These colder parts were often played on wavetable synths like the PPG Wave, and Equator2 has a fantastic selection of wavetables. Next, we're going to add some synth bass. I'm going to use a classic analog sound with saw waves detuned with lots of resonance on the filter. Next, let's add synth keys to harmonize with our chord progression. This type of simple counter melody will really bring our song to life once the beat kicks in. Next, let's add some electric guitar. I'm adding two guitar patches here. The first one is a simple, clean chorus guitar, which is a classic 80s sound for a plucking melody. And finally, no 80s synthwave song is complete without soaring lead guitar. The Seaboard's ability to glide and do vibrato makes it by far the most fun controller for guitar parts that I've ever tried. And finally, let's add drums. I'm going to play in some samples from the LM1 Lindrum drum machine, which is an absolute classic of synthwave and in fact all 80s music. All right, and we're ready. Let's hear what our synthwave track sounds like. right, well, hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you learned something about Synthwave. And if this video did inspire you and you want to pick up one of these amazing MPE controllers from ROLI, please use the link in my description. Not only do they have the LUMI Studio Keys and the Seaboard RISE 2, which we've looked at today, but they also have the brand new Seaboard Block, which is a smaller version of the Seaboard and is awesome as well. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.